What is going on, everyone? Anthony Drew Gary here, and this week on the show, we are talking about 529 plans and the recent changes in the Secures Act that may make them more attractive than they have been in previous years. I mentioned in a previous video that the government just got done with 4,000 pages worth of spending package, and a little bit of it is worth reading here, and I say that tongue-in-cheek, but I do mean it in the sense that they've changed the way that the 529 plans basically are looked at from a penalization standpoint. And so what I want to do is briefly touch on what a 529 is. 529 account is a college choice savings plan that allows you to invest or contribute or save for college education or private school education or trade education, basically education in general, in such a way that you can contribute now and theoretically invest it, and those investments will theoretically grow over time. And so this is an idea for you to be able to save for your loved ones. You know, maybe you start when they're young and you build it over time. And the thought is that by the time that they are ready to graduate, that there's some money set aside to go on to their next educational pursuit. And that has grown over time, and that you don't get to be taxed on the growth, so that there's a good chunk of money there to throw toward their education. And there were some thoughts behind basically what happens if you get some scholarships, or what happens if you don't go to college, or what happens any sort of scenario where future education isn't part of the game plan. And so the concern there is that right now, the way that the program is set up, you have to pay a penalty to get that money out, basically to offset the fact that you got some tax-free gains all along the way. And the Secure 2.0 Act changes that thought process a little bit, because they are allowing you to, I'll go ahead and just read the document here. They're allowing you to roll over up to 35 grand. And so what it says, and I'll link to this in the show notes, that Section 126, special rules for certain distributions from long-term qualified tuition programs to Roth IRAs. Blah, blah, blah. Sounds really complicated, but here we are. Section 126 amends the IRS code to allow for tax and penalty-free rollovers from 529 accounts to Roth IRAs under certain conditions. Beneficiaries of 529 college savings accounts would be permitted to roll over up to $35,000 over the course of their lifetime from any 529 account in their name to their Roth IRA. These rollovers are also subject to Roth IRA annual contribution limits, and the 529 account must have been open for more than 15 years. And so those little nuances are important there, that you can't just wash money through your 529 and then send it directly to your Roth IRA. But this may start to think about how you structure which is more important in your savings waterfall, if you will, because this is giving you a little bit more flexibility than you had previously. And so the passage goes on to say, families and students have concerns about leftover funds being trapped in 529 accounts unless they take a non-qualified withdrawal and assume a penalty. I would agree with that. This has led to hesitating, delaying, or declining to fund 529s to levels needed to pay for the rising cost of education. Section 126 eliminates this concern by providing families and students with the option to avoid the penalty, resulting in families putting more into their 529 account. Families who sacrifice and save in 529 accounts should not be punished with tax and penalty years later if the beneficiary has found an alternative way to pay for education. They should be able to retain their savings and begin their retirement account on a positive note. And so I agree with the thought process to all of this, but there's an extra nuance to this that I want to spend some time talking about. And that's that right now, as I Googled it, Bankrate has a website that you can Google too that suggests that 35 of the 50 states in America provide some level of either tax credit or tax deduction to your state taxes that gives you a benefit for contributing to a 529 account. And if you live in Indiana like I do, ours is, I would say, one of the more robust. Basically, you get a 20% tax credit for every dollar that you put in up to $5,000. And so if you put in $5,000, you get $1,000 worth of tax credit, which means that if you only owed $5 in state taxes, that they would cut you a check for the other $9.95. really good deal. And especially when you start to think about this in such a way that you can start to stack these strategies together, you're getting essentially a benefit to contribute, and then it grows tax-free. And then you can either use it for qualified education expenses, or you can roll over up to 35 grand into a Roth IRA that, oh, by the way, also gets to be withdrawn from tax-free. And so in not so many words, there are 35 states in the union right now that are potentially contributing to your tax-free retirement growth. And so this is something worth thinking about. How do you structure your savings for retirement versus for, kids' college or whatever that looks like, in such a way that maybe you can have the best of both worlds here. Maybe you're saving for college education, and for some reason junior gets a scholarship, and you don't need all that money. You can start to claw some of it back into your Roth IRA. And it starts to get a little interesting here. It talks about beneficiaries, and then it talks about the rollovers into individual retirement accounts. And so there's some nuance that needs to be discovered here as to exactly how this plays out practically, because I can see a scenario where mom contributes to a 529. Later on, mom contributes to a Roth IRA through that portion. And then the flip side to that is that dad does the same thing, and then dad contributes to it. And so is it $35,000 per household, per marriage arrangement, per what circumstance here? Because the way that I read it, it's rather unclear, and I think there will be future guidance on this. But the way that I read it, it could potentially be up to $70,000, and I don't think that's the intent. I'll be curious to see what future guidance is on that. But wanted to make a video about this to open up a dialogue, to suggest that if you're somebody who contributes to your Roth IRA regularly, maybe it makes sense to look at the 529 just because the state's giving you some benefit from it if you live in one of the 35 states that does. That's going to bring this episode of the show to a close. Hopefully I didn't bore you too bad there. Hopefully you got some useful content out of this. You can share it with somebody, and you can hit the subscribe button to know about new videos each and every Wednesday in long form, and a lot more frequent than that in short form. Having fun doing the the Instagram reels and turning them into YouTube shorts, and hopefully people are getting benefit of that as well. Just doing some short form videos, quick hitters, fun things to talk about. If you've got any feedback for the show, leave me a comment down below. And if you are transacting real estate in the Indiana market, get in touch with me. I can help you with that. I can talk with you. We can discuss it. We can shoot the breeze. I eat, sleep, drink, and poop real estate for a living, and am happy to help you so that you don't have to. Until next time, this is Anthony Drew Gary, host of The How To Show, signing off.